Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Recovery. My name is Matt Gardner, the host of Beyond Recovery. My guest today is releasing a book, Bamboozled, which is a fantastic name, fantastic word. And his name's Ken Middleton. Ken, how are you this evening?
I'm good, Matt. Appreciate you having me, my man. I love the radio feel here.
Yeah,
like
right
I'm 99.5 the Fox.
Yes, yes. And where are you calling in from again?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, right on.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Born and raised?
No, I'm actually from a little town called Clinton, North Carolina,
Okay.
Eastern North Carolina, but I tell people Raleigh because that's probably
Raleigh,
the city they've heard of.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get into the book. I do like, strangely enough, I clued in, there was like the booze, like the booze pun in Bamboozled. I thought I know what Bamboozled means. I'm like, oh, that's a cool name. And like minutes before we went live, I'm like, oh, okay. I like read it and I kind of saw that the booze words stick out. I'm like, very, very cool, very clever.
And the actual tagline, Matt, I should have just told you this, is how alcohol makes fools of us all.
Yeah.
So it plays on the entire mantra of the wordplay there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So we're gonna get into the book. Ken, before we do though, I'd love to get to know more about you, about your origin story, with alcohol, what led you to, wanting to stop, needing to stop, choosing to stop. And we'll just go from there. Open floor for you and just take your time, take as much time as you'd like. I'd love to hear more about your story, man.
All right, cool, man. I will tell you that my story is probably going to be different from some of your previous hosts or some of the hosts that I've heard you have on the show, in the sense that I didn't stop drinking because my life was terrible. I tell people all the time, my life drinking was absolutely amazing. I love my life drinking. It was fantastic. I got stories. I got memories. I got some amazing shit happened to me when I was drinking. However, the reason I stopped drinking, Matt, is because I finally woke up. And just to your point, let me start from the beginning. So I started drinking at 19. Most people did in college. And it was, for me, everything that people said drinking could be, drinking was, in the sense that I wasn't really shy, but I was a normal 19-year-old in the sense of not confident in all situations, a little nervous around females, the opposite sex, and just needing something or wanting something, being in an environment which you're around a lot of people that you don't know, and you got male testosterone trying to show they're the best male in the room. You got women trying to figure out what male they want to be with. It's a tough situation. It's just a thing that allows people to relax in that situation. So I was a natural, normal 19-year-old, and I started drinking. And what I discovered is what a lot of people discover. Man, it was amazing. Like, everything that I wanted to do, alcohol allowed me to do. I was more confident when it came to talking to women. I had great social skills that I didn't have before. I danced a lot better, which I may be nervous to dance without it. Like, life was fantastic. So I lived a great college life. I enjoyed a fraternity. I did all that stuff. I graduate, and then I end up getting a sales job. Now, if you think college is the place where you learn how to drink, a sales organization is the place that you get your masters in how to drink, right? Because it's all about schmoozing the client. They give you a credit card or at least an expense account to spend money on alcohol. Right. And then when the company's not paying for your drinks, you got your friends and your coworkers wanting to go out to drink. So I had a career in sales in which I drank continuously. I drank all the time. I was drinking probably every other night, not every night, but drinking a fair amount, way more probably than most people drink. But I didn't realize it, because every time when you're thinking about your drinking, you look at the relativity of the people you're around. So if I look to my left and my right, my volume of drinking was no different than other people's. And these are individuals who are highly successful, making well above six figures in roles that I would aspire to, and they're drinking as much or if not more than I am. So I don't have a problem. They don't have a problem. Life is good. So I successful in my sales career, had a great run with my company. And then I decided in 2017 to leave my company because I wanted to start my own business. It was a staffing company, IT staffing. And I said, hey, I want to start my own business. At that time, I was 36 years old. I had a lot of money, a fair amount of money in the bank. And I felt like this was the time to do it, right? I don't have any kids, no responsibilities. If I'm going to do it, now's a great time. So I leave the company and I start my own company, the staffing company. And I did it for a year and a half, about 18 months. And then about 18 months in, I was living with my girlfriend at the time, wife now. We had just moved in together. And I said, we had went out and I was just, I just wasn't making any money. It was 18 months in. I was working 80, 90 hours a week, busting my ass and not making a lot of money. So I was like, man, I'm gonna have to go back and get a corporate job. And I just said, you know what? If I go back to corporate America, I want to be able to say, or to be able to look myself in the eye 100% and say, I know I gave it 100%. And always in the back of my mind, I always knew that when I drink, I wasn't given 100% the next day. And I had this funny saying that I used to think, the way of thinking that I knew I was probably 70, 80%. And I always said my 70, 80% was probably worth most people's 100%. Because up until that time, I'd have been successful drinking. Like I still got the job done. I would go out, drink, stay out till 11, 12 o'clock at night, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to my office and kick ass. So alcohol wasn't the problem, but I knew I wasn't 100%. So I said, what if I stop drinking? I wonder how much that would change or affect my ability to be successful. So I just told my wife, hey, I think I'm gonna cut back on drinking. I don't want to go back to corporate America without saying that I've given it 1,000%. Fortunate enough for me, she said, you know what, I'll do it with you because my wife is amazing. And we stopped drinking. And Matt, I made more money in the next 3 months not drinking than I made in the previous 9 months.
Wow.
And it was just like, okay, there's probably something here. Like not only was I making money, but sleep was so much better. I was exercising consistently and I wasn't having the yo-yo effect of exercising well, then eating some pizza or something terrible because I just got home from a night of, right? I didn't have so much pulling against me. I wasn't taking 2 steps back and 2 steps forward because I wasn't drinking. I was consistently taking steps forward with everything. And I was like, man, like there's something here. And then around that time, I actually read Annie Grace's book, This Naked Mind. And I learned about all the things that alcohol does to you that I had no idea before. And I tell people, this is why I started A&F, Alcohol is Not Your Friend, which is the Medium publication. And then that's why that extrapolated or grew into Bamboozled, the book, because what I wasn't aware of at that time was how alcohol was affecting me, even though my life looked great. And even though externally, if you look at the physical representation of how successful I was, you would think everything was good. There was a price I was paying that I wasn't aware of, that I was actually paying at the time. And as time progressed, that I was going to pay later from how alcohol affects you physiologically, mentally, emotionally. And I didn't recognize that. In school, it often seems there's a stratification of either you're an alcoholic or you're fine with drinking. It's like there's no in between. It's just one or the other. Either it's one thing or the other. And if you're not an alcoholic, then you're fine. If you're not, wanting to sell your kid to get a bottle of beer, then you're okay. There's like there's a great spectrum there. And I say, and what I wanted people to be aware of is that if you drink consistently, anybody, and we'll talk about we can talk about what consistently is, but it's not a lot consistently, and excessive is not a lot either. If you drink consistently and excessively or more than the average person, you will eventually have a problem with alcohol. Eventually. I don't know what that time frame is going to be, but you will. And I didn't recognize that. And I didn't realize all the other things I was giving up for it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to keep this going because I think it's helping me. So 3 months turned into 6 months, 6 months turned into a year, and that's turned into 4 years now. And why I wrote Bamboozled, to educate others on it and just make sure to me, if you want to drink, I don't care, drink. But what I want you to do is the term I call alcohol conscious, is be aware of the trade-offs you're making when you drink. And that's what Bamboozled is about.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thanks for sharing your story. A lot of important points there. And yeah, refreshing take, or just a different take on it, right? Is like, as you mentioned, it's like right from the get-go, you prefaced the whole conversation that we had here is like, this is going to be different than a lot of the folks that you've had on your show before. Mentioning that, yeah, at the time, yeah, you enjoyed it, you enjoyed the nights out and such. And just curious that it came together in such a different fashion. You're like, I like that mindset though, right? I'm like, if I'm going to go back to this corporate America, I need to know that I've done everything 100%. And that ingredient the missing ingredient, so to speak, that you identified was alcohol. And yeah, here we are. And congratulations, man. 4 years later, November 2018, correct? When
Yeah,
you,
that was it. Yep.
yeah.
November 18th,
So
2018.
yeah, a little over 4 years now. Amazing stuff, and I like the just the work that you're doing. And yeah, there's so many topics we can branch off into. But even before we get into the book, or I'm sure it ties in with the book. So yeah, let's get into that. So you mentioned what was it? It's the NSF. What was it again?
Oh
Sorry?
yeah, alcohol is not your friend.
That's it. Yeah,
That's what I call
yeah.
it, because for me,
Cool.
alcohol was my friend, and at
Right.
least I thought it was.
Right.
But I didn't realize how, even though he was helping me, he was hurting me at the same time.
Right. Toxic relationship, quite literally. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. 100%.
Yeah. So that is basically the start of that, is like that whole concept, that movement. I love the idea of the alcohol conscious, dude, another person that's into the Annie Grace book. Like that's a big one for my fiance and I. We both read that in 2018. So lining up timelines as well. And just the whole idea of like, it's her idea, the same thing is like, you don't have to stop drinking, just be more aware, conscious of what you're doing with the drinks and what the drinking is doing to you. So I really love that term that you have, the alcohol consciousness, or alcoholic conscious behavior, we'll call it.
Yes.
So dude, really cool topics here. Let's get into the book. So the actual writing of the book, when did you decide, you know what, I need to get these ideas in a book, I need to get this out there? How did that all come about?
So I started ANF in May of 2020, and probably 6 months after I was writing ANF, and I started getting all these ideas. Because what happened with ANF is that not only was I getting ideas out there that I was sharing with people, but I was learning so much as I was researching to come up with topics to share. I started learning a lot of different things about the history of alcohol, about all the physiological ways alcohol affects the brain, your emotions, anxiety, how it causes anxiety. I learned the drugs that people are using for it. So I was learning so much. I was like, man, so many people don't know this. And I wish someone would have told me this when I was 17, 18, 22, 24 earlier. So I was like, why don't I write a book, or I want to write a book that boils all this down and put it in an easy to read, digestible format that hopefully makes it clear to people. Not like, once again, not saying you shouldn't drink, but just want you to recognize what you're giving up if you're drinking, and what you can gain if you decide not to drink. So I wanted to write a book that allowed to do that. And I think the format that I created it in is basically a 3-part format that I think hopefully does that. So the first part is just talking about a few questions. Why do you do it? So I started writing, and I wanted people to be educated on why we drink. Oftentimes, and you talked a little bit about in your book, I mean, when you were talking about your origin story in your book, ebook, around seeing your parents, and at 7 or 8 years old, you're playing games of drinking. And like, so we think drinking is something that I think a lot of us don't even think about how we did get to that, want to drink. But what I want people to understand is that we're socially engineered from a very young age to want to drink because of the examples that we see, either in our family, our parents, our friends, television. There's so many external things and effects on us from the outside that are trying to get us to drink, that it's almost impossible for somebody to grow up to be like, they don't want to drink. It's almost like it's unusual. So I walk people through that to help people understand the reason you want to drink, even though you think it was a decision you made, you didn't really make it. Society made that for you, and you just kind of fell into what society has already decided you should do, which, it is what it is. What are you going to do about that? But I want people to be aware of it and recognize it so they can understand, like, I don't know if manipulated is the word, but I think socially engineered is a good way to say it.
Sure.
So they can fight against it. So next, then we talk about, all right, why do you do it? All the different ways that affects that. Next, we talk about what do you have to gain by giving it up? And then we go through all the great things that in life, careers, finances, relationships, like all health, all the things, aging appropriately and not terribly, all the things you can gain by making the decision to no longer drink. And then once we give you that, to say, all right, here's why you do it. Here's what you have to gain if you give it up. Now let's talk about how to do it. And the third part is we go through this concept I call it the MEDS, which is MEDS, which it's an acronym, and it stands for, of course, and I'll share that with you. 4 things. It gives you the tips and strategies. Actually, let me just take it now.
Yeah.
M stands for mechanical engineering or re-engineering,
Mm.
right? That has to go through that's the opposite of the social engineering that you got as a child. How do we now change the way you think to understand what alcohol is really doing for you instead of thinking it is harmless? E stands for exercise commitment. You and I talked about this prior to the podcast starting, but I personally think it's very important to exercise because not only scientifically has it been proven to reduce your cravings and make it easier for you to abstain from alcohol, but it also helps you with one of the big things you get when a lot of people stop drinking is what do you do with all the free time? A lot of people like, I got this free time, I don't know what to do. How about you work out? And it just makes you feel better. The other part of that, I believe that your physical representation is a great symbolism of your internal representation. And if you're not drinking and you're sleeping better and you're emotionally better and you don't have as much anxiety, that's great. But if you can physically see the change, I think it's just an extra motivator. So that's one of the things of exercise that and it just helps you live longer. So I'm like, if you don't exercise, you're just shortening your life. So that's one of the things I pushed at. D is for diet improvement, which for me is the other side of the coin for exercise commitment. You can exercise all you want to, but if you eat like shit, you won't see a change at all. And it really counter affects you. You know, alcohol is terrible, but eating crappy food is way worse, to be honest with you. Number 1 and number 2 killers of people is diabetes and heart disease. So, you know, it's way worse than alcohol. So I would be remiss to say it's okay to eat whatever you want as long as you don't drink, because that's just not real. If I had a choice, I'm gonna say not drinking over eating. I mean, not eating crap because of drinking, because it's going to kill you a lot faster food. So anyway, diet is helpful as well. And then there's also an aspect of diet where it helps you emotionally feel better, and it reduces cravings as well when it comes to eating the right things. And the last one is called success seeking. And this is the most important one for me, because with success seeking and why this is the how you do it part, and why I felt like it was so important to end it with success seeking. When you give up drinking, Matt, I tell people you've given yourself a gift. A gift of becoming the very best version of yourself. Now, if you want to take that gift and not do anything with it and just be humdrum and not do anything to push yourself to be spectacular, that's your choice if you want to. But in my opinion, when you stop drinking, you have freed your mind to reach heights that it could never hit with alcohol. So we think back to when we're in school and we're doing physics and calculus or whatever, hopefully before you started drinking, and the way your mind can think theoretically and spatially about concepts, when you start drinking, your mind doesn't have the ability to do that because of the cloudiness and the way that alcohol affects your different synapses in your brain, right? That's just the reality of it. There's a reason why your speech is slurred and you're not supposed to drive when you're drinking, because it's messing up your brain, right? There's scientifically proven that people that drink for long periods of time have less white and gray matter in their brain, which means it makes it harder for them to learn things, hard for them to remember things. When you stop drinking, it frees your mind from that. I call alcohol the governor of life. And what I mean by that is just like on a car or a bus, there's a governor that only has it keeps the engine from going too fast. That's what alcohol would do for your life. It governs your life that you can only reach certain heights and you'll never reach your greatest capability. By releasing it, the gift you're giving to yourself is you've taken that off, and now you have a ceiling that you can do anything you want to. And I tell people, if you want to make sure you never go back to drinking, create a goal for yourself that your previous pre-alcohol conscious self would be scared because there's no way you could do it. I don't care what the goal is. Like for me, my wife is Korean. I was like, I want to learn Korean because I know when I was drinking, there's no way in hell I would even think about learning Korean because I wouldn't have had the mental capacity for it. I wouldn't have the patience. I wouldn't have the time. I wouldn't have the discipline to do it. But once I stopped drinking, I knew I had all those things. Let me work towards it. So you give yourself a goal that is lofty, that you know you would have to have a heightened version of yourself to become, and you preferably 2, 3 year out goal. So whenever you think about going back to drinking, you have to ask yourself, do I want to give up this goal that I created to go back and do that? And that's just that extra sense of motivation that, hey, drinking was fine and I had a good time, but I have this goal of who I want to become that I just can't go back and do that anymore. I got to keep going for it. And that's what success seeking is about giving yourself that goal. So that's the end of part 3, which is how you do it. And then the last one is, who do you want to become? It's just a question. It's just a one chapter, red pill or blue pill, if you will. You got all the knowledge now. And once again, I'm not judging if you want to keep drinking. I don't give it. That's on you. Like I even, to your point, my mechanical reengineering, the very first part of it, I tell people, don't stop drinking when you're going through that. When you're educating yourself on alcohol, when you're educating on how it affects your sleep and your diet and how it affects all the different aspects, keep drinking. The reason I want you to keep drinking, because everything you're learning, I want you to be aware of, is it happening to you? I want you to assess it real time. If you stop drinking, you might even forget what it feels like. I want you to see that. So now you're seeing, like, prime example, as ridiculous as it sounds, I never made the association of when I woke up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep and had anxiety, that it was because I was drinking.
Right.
How ridiculous is that? I never made that connection until I started reading books and started to understand what alcohol does to you in so many ways, neurologically as well as physiologically. And then I was like, oh man, what have I been doing to myself for so many years? So I want people to recognize that. So at the end, well, who do you want to become? And that is the question I have people to ask themselves. And then hopefully, people decide that if they don't want to drink, they give themselves to build something, a version of themselves that is pretty impressive.
That's cool, man. I love the idea. I love the concept, 3 parts and, the idea of, drinking in real time, having this transformation in real time. Like I can imagine somebody reading a part of that book where they're, half in the bag, half buzzed, and realizing and feeling that and just like embodying that, like it's in your system while you're reading this. So I can see how that's incredibly effective. A couple of questions that come up for me is like, one of the reasons that I did drink, I think earlier on anyways, was I didn't have an answer for what I want. Like I knew there was something in me and it was a feeling. I would have had a really hard time articulating that, Ken. You know what I mean? Like if you asked me at the end of the book when I was 25 what I wanted to be, like I had an idea, like I wanted to be a musician, right? But I didn't really have a 2-3 year plan out. So to me, that would almost be like make me almost more uncomfortable at that stage, right? Now that totally resonates with me. But yeah, what would be like your suggestion for somebody that can get to that stage of the game and realize it's not good for them, but they don't really have that, that next
seeking,
you know what I mean? Yeah. The success seeking part. Like, what would be
that's a good question, Matt. I mean, it would just depend on, hopefully, and this is another aspect of the book that I share, the way that the book gives the dichotomy, if you will, of the choice of drinking or not drinking, is it tells what I call alcohol parables. And in each of the chapters, as we walk through what you have to gain and we walk through why you do it, you have 2 characters primarily, and both of them are different ages, or they're close in age, similar in trajectory of life and what they're doing. One, and their drinking is on the same level, not bad, not like they're in the gutter, but just not great. And they make a decision, they come to a fork in the road in which they make a decision to keep drinking or to stop drinking. And then you're able to see the trajectory of that person's life and how it flows. And then what you would see is invariably that the person that stopped drinking gets to live a much wholer, more fulfilled life versus the person that's drinking. And that's what I would say to somebody that, hey, I don't really know what I want to do from a success seeking perspective. I get it. You don't really, at 25, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to either, but I knew I wanted to be successful. And I think there's very few people that won't say, they don't know what and
Yeah,
how, but they
sure,
want to have a lot of money, buy things, be the master of their fate. And
true.
alcohol makes it extremely more difficult to do that. And through the alcohol parables and through the examples, hopefully they can see that to say, hey, I don't know what I want to do, but regardless, drinking is going to get me there less fast than not drinking. So I'll probably
100%.
take the less drinking path.
Yeah, a really good answer there. And I like the parables idea. It's like, and you guys it gets a lot into the whole like quick fix, short attention span culture. But
Yeah.
you're saying it's like it's like more so like planting a tree, and waiting for 15 years. If you planted a tree when you're all hammered and you're watering it with like alcohol water, whatever the
Yes,
example would be, right?
that is a great example
So, something like
analogy. Yeah.
that. So, dude, I really like that. And and yeah, to your point, absolutely. Like I like how you flip the angle a little bit there. Is like, I did know when I was 25, the more intangible, I knew what I wanted to experience. I wanted to experience
Yeah.
abundance. I wanted to experience, all the fruits of life, if you will. So no, that's a really good answer, dude. I appreciate that. I want to get back into the exercise thing, because from my personal story, that really resonates with me, what you mentioned. And let's get a little bit into that, because that was my, they say, I've heard in recovery rooms and such, like, don't replace one habit with another. And I say, to me, BS, because I
Yeah.
replaced one addiction with another. That was the best thing I ever did, dude, because I went right to the gym for the exact reasons that you talked about. I was going every day. I felt so much better about myself. All the extra time I had, I would just go to the gym. I do my thing, and man, the mental health that came, and the confidence and everything else that came with it literally saved my life in a lot of ways. So let's get into exercise. I know it's a big part of your life as well. So let's talk a little exercise.
Yeah, man. Well, I've been exercising ever since I was, God, I don't know, 25 years old. For me, it's just been super important. Always been decent at it, as far as probably, eating healthier than the average person, working out more than the average person. But alcohol was just that thing that, like I said, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So when I stopped drinking, exercise was big, because what I was learning is that scientifically exercise helps reduce cravings. It's a proven fact. Like, they've done studies on this where exercise is in the book. It reduces cravings by you working out, because the artificial dopamine spike that you get from alcohol, there's very few things that can duplicate that. It's not real, it's fake. But by exercising, you give yourself the ability to actually get close to that, or as close to that as you possibly can. So I'm a big runner. They talk about the runner's high.
Yeah.
So being able to get out there and run and really let myself loose, it makes you feel better. And to your point, a lot of the reasons people drink is because they use alcohol to cope with various aspects of their life, right? They need that. They need to vent, and they use alcohol to allow them to decompress and vent. By exercising, you can actually do the same thing in a much healthier manner. And I would agree, Matt. Like, I'm with you, and I'll be transparent. Like, don't replace one habit with another. BS. That's you exercising every day is a healthy habit, right? There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. And then I tell people, don't try to be perfect when you start drinking. When you stop drinking, and I say this in the sense of, because drinking is so bad and it's a hardcore habit to stop. One of the things that most people are going to have to do, I know I say diet commitment, because you do need to eat well, but you are going to want to eat a lot of sugar. So when I
Right.
stopped
Yeah.
drinking, dude,
Yeah.
holy shit. Like, it was, and
Yeah.
what's funnier, man, about the whole situation, I never ate sweets before that. I
Dude,
never
same
ate
thing.
sweets.
Same thing. Yeah.
Never. It wasn't my thing. Partially
Yeah.
because I didn't want to mix alcohol and ice cream. It was just the nastiest thing ever. Like, I never wanted to have sweets, because like it
Yeah.
didn't go with alcohol. Like, a cake doesn't go with alcohol. Pie
Yeah.
doesn't go. It's
No,
just
fair point.
nasty.
Fair point. Yeah.
So I never wanted it. So when I stopped drinking, dude, I
Yeah.
went nuts on
Yeah.
sweets. Like, it was
Yeah.
insane. Like,
Yeah.
I needed something to get me that same spike. And I tell people that is okay. In my opinion, if that's going to stop you from drinking alcohol, now you can't do it forever. And you do have
Mm.
to be conscious that, once again, as I said earlier, you don't want to trade your alcoholism for diabetes. So that's
Right.
not the
Right.
trade-off you want to make.
Yeah.
But for short term, if that can get you to a point in which then, because it's a time frame. For me, it was about 6 months. After about 6 months of not drinking, I no longer in any shape, form, or fashion had any more cravings, right?
Yeah.
After 6 months, then I could say, all right, let me look at my sugar habits, because this shit is, I can't do this forever either. Now, I will
Right.
tell you, it took me about 2 years for me to get off sugar, because it wasn't that easy, but I got
Sure.
off of it, and I figured out what I need to do. But I tell people it's okay to not try to be perfect. Whatever it's like, you don't have to go to the gym every day, or 45 minutes every day. Just go 3 days a week, 30 minutes a day. Like, do something, get the body moving, because it's going to help with your cravings in so many ways. And then just eating better, like eating good, healthy food, and seeing that. I think just seeing your body look good is going to make you say, all right, I want, it's almost like success seeking a little bit, because by seeing what you gain and you lose weight and you see your abs or whatever you get from not drinking, it's going to be that internal motivation. It's going to make you say, I don't want to go back to that pre-alcohol conscious, over 30 pounds overweight version of myself.
Yeah.
Look what I am now. So,
Yeah.
and the big thing about it with the exercise commitment and how it helps so many other things, it's like I tell people, this is the beginning of what I call an inverted triangle. So the inverted triangle is like an upside down triangle. And I have a picture of it here, because I've been trying to show people, it's easier just to show.
Okay.
And for the listeners, it's an upside down triangle. And what the inverted triangle is, Matt, it is the alcohol often is the base. It's like something that, because it has such a negative effect on your life, it doesn't allow you to realize the effect, realize success in other areas of your life. And if you can control that one negative aspect of your life, for me, it's exercise. For other people, it might be porn, or it might be gambling, or it might be whatever. It could be different things for different people, but it's that lever that if you control it, you can really rocket ship your life into a warp speed. So for me, upside down triangle, by controlling my drinking, then I was able to look at my exercise habits and improve my exercise habits. And then when my exercise habits got better, then I was able to look at my drinking and my food habits, and my food got better. And then when I looked at my food, then I looked at my sleep patterns, and my sleep got better. Then when I looked at my sleep, then my meditation got better. And it allows you to become, because I tell people all the time, I'm not an alcohol coach, man. I'm not. Like, Matt, stuff you do with addiction is impressive to me. But if you are addicted to alcohol and you call yourself an alcoholic, I am not qualified to help you get off, to stop drinking. I am not that. I consider myself a wellness advocate, which I want you to be the best version of yourself, which means exercise right, sleep right, eat right, meditate right, emotionally do the things you need to do. But for me, the inverted triangle often is that thing that doesn't allow you to do all these other things, because once you take alcohol away and you go back to drinking again, the triangle implodes upon itself and it won't stand. But by controlling your drinking, then you can look at all these other aspects of your life and start building that best version of yourself. And that's why exercise is so important, because it's a pillar in the bigger picture of the wellness and you building the best version of yourself.
Totally agree, man. I love that. Again, the inverted triangle, and people will see you, if they see on your Instagram or on your website, like you're jacked, but like, I love your message. You're saying it's not, that's your journey. That's your exercise journey. And you're saying, it's just about movement, man. 30 minutes. That could be a hang up for people. They get overwhelmed by, like, it's got to be 2 hours. I'm all or none. You got to get, like, and there's a lot of, let's face it, a lot of drinkers are like that. So they take that mentality to the gym and it's like, I have to do 2 or 3 hours at a time. No, you don't. Right. It's just, that's what it is. Half an hour, 3 times a week, as you mentioned. Find out what works for you. So I think that's a great message, especially coming from you, because some people will look at you and go, well, geez, you're not doing that. But you're saying, the message is so solid. So I appreciate you saying that. And you touched on something here. I was actually going to ask you about it, because you're coming off very thoughtful. Like, you got the, the science and the research and everything back. You got some, like, real good mentality, habits, changing your habits, mindset stuff. I was going to ask you about that final component. You touched on a little bit, this, whether you call it the spiritual or the emotional or whatever other, form you might take for you. And you mentioned with meditation, where does that show up for you now, and how has that changed with along with your relationship with alcohol?
Well, it's just another aspect of wellness to be a complete whole person, right? I think meditation allows you, I'll be transparent. I'm not very religious. I mean, this is my personal thing,
Sure.
but I do feel like the meditation allows you to get to a calm place, a silence place inside of you that we all need. I think prayer is just a form of meditation that allows you to kind of to be grounded. And it's just something that emotionally allows you to be comfortable with who you are.
Mm.
That in and of itself allows you then to respond better to so many different situations. So I tell people this all the time, because people think this, and this is once again, I just like to shoot people straight. I will tell you this, and it's going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but follow me here.
Mm-hmm.
Stop drinking. If you quit drinking alcohol, it will not, hear me, it will not solve all of your problems. It won't.
Mm-hmm.
It won't. Like, you're still going to have problems in life. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Things will get better. There's a lot of shit that's going to get better, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that still isn't going to be great. But stopping drinking and cutting it out gives you the tools and allows you now to have the emotional fortitude to face those problems without the crutch of alcohol. Because what alcohol did, alcohol is a band-aid. Alcohol doesn't fix the problems. Alcohol just allows you to just forget about the problem. When you take alcohol away, and I'm going to be clear here, there's going to be a period that it's going to seem a little worse than better. Because when you, let's say not like terrible, but prime example, when I would go to social events, happy hours or what have you, meetups, I would just have a beer in my hand. Social anxiety, I didn't have to deal with the social anxiety. I could just drink the beer and then it'll be gone, because alcohol just makes you loose and comfortable, blah, blah, blah. So when you stop drinking and you go to meetups or happy hours or what have you, and you're not drinking alcohol, you're going to be anxious and it is going to be challenging. And you're going to struggle, but the only way for you to overcome it and get better at it is just to do it. And it may seem like it's not getting better, but it does get better. Like for me, I just use myself example. It took me probably 2 years, maybe 3 years before my social anxiety eventually just went away. And it felt like things got better and better and better. And I would get in situations and I was like, I would still be nervous. And I was like, man, why am I still nervous? But then eventually, it's almost like initially when you start drinking, it's like everything gets better, everything is better, everything is better, like linear. And then eventually it levels off, because homeostasis is something's going to feel amazing for so long. And eventually your body's going to get used to it. But even though it seems like you're not growing, you are still growing, and you just got to be patient. And then eventually, like Malcolm Gladwell said, you hit that tipping point and then boom, it's gone. Right. But I'm clear with people. It doesn't, stopping drinking doesn't solve all of your problems, but it gives you the emotional ability and capacity to deal with your problems. So before, you have a bad day at work, you'll just come home and drink a beer or drink or whatever. Now you have a bad day at work and you're not drinking, you come home and you have to assess, why do you have a bad day at work? You have to do the hard work to understand what could you have done differently that wouldn't have happened. Before you get in an argument with your spouse, you just go beat your friends at a bar and you drink and not think about it. Now, because you don't have that as a crutch, you got to think through, why did you have that argument? What could you have done differently to not allow that to happen? So it gives you the tools to improve your life, to be whole and not have this crutch that a lot of us have, drinking, to fall back on. And then even though it's going to be a little harder initially for a certain amount of time, once you get better and then you start working that muscle of dealing emotionally with things, it's going to get so much better on the back end.
Yeah, great answer again, man. Like, I like what you're saying, the emotional fortitude. I think of the term like emotional sobriety. It's like the allowing of all emotions, sitting with them instead of trying to numb a certain batch out or rating them, the hierarchy of like some emotions are bad, some are good. Being able to, like you say, have this toolkit, essentially these tools to get through that. And I really like what you said too, as far as, problems will still be there. And, I read a great quote one time. It was something along, I think it was a Wayne Dyer quote. And he's something along the lines of problems are a sign of life. The only people that don't have problems are dead people. So
I love that quote.
Right. So 100%. I love, yeah, really, really liking jamming with you here. So let's get into like the book's release. I know it's coming up. You have a sample, like a 2-chapter sample that you can read. And we'll have all of this, of course, in the show notes and such. What is the book release plan? Because I know it's you got a planned release over the next 4-6 months. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, Matt, we're going to release the digital copy first because I just want to get it in people's hands sooner rather than later. So come February or late February, early March, I think it's the plan to release the digital copy. So people will have it, can read it, start learning. Because my thing is like, man, if this can help people, I wanted to get it out there as soon as I can, because 6 months can be a long way as far as your life and building the version you want to be. And then in August, we're going to release the actual physical copy, which then it'll be available in all bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, Target, everywhere that you can buy books, Amazon, of course. We're going to release the physical copy. But to your point, you can go and get chapter 2, which we talk about. It's called College Days and Haze. So we talk about, hey, where you learn how to drink and how that affects your life and how you've been socially engineered at a very young age to that's what you have to do. So we talk about that. We talk about alcohol parables, so you can see the examples of people's lives. And there's a lot of science in there so people can understand like, hey, don't feel bad because you drink, because alcohol is made for you to want to drink it. Like, it works really, really well. And it was created to make you want to drink it. So don't feel bad about that because you're a human being. So it's a chapter 2. You can get it from the website, thebamboozledbook.com. So if you go to bamboozledbook.com, you can download chapter 2, get on my list when it has to do with the updates on the release, a launch team. I'm having people on the launch team. So definitely excited for anyone to check it out, and hopefully it'll be released everywhere pretty soon.
Yeah, congratulations, man. That's a big, like, getting in it. Can you imagine, like, you got to be excited. You get roll up into Target, you see your own book on the shelf there. That's good. That's a trip, man.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see. Hopefully it works out well. So when we got a publisher that puts it out there, so it'll be in a number of bookstores. So the more people buy it, the more places it'll be.
More places it'll be. Speaking of places, are you going to do a little like book tour, kind of do some signings, that kind of thing, or see how she goes, play by ear?
We'll see. I probably will need to do that. I got to be honest. It isn't one of my things that I'm super excited about. I'm not big on the book tours or the speaking. Some people are like, oh, I want to be a speaker. No, it ain't. I don't mind speaking. It just doesn't excite me. So I don't know. Enough. I might do that, but I will say, as I shared, I am going to have a launch team. That is so important. Amazon reviews are so important when your book comes out. For sure. If you go to thebamboozledbook.com, you'll be on my mailing list. From there, you'll get the opportunity to be on the launch team. And if you are on the launch team, I will give you a signed copy, physical copy as well, that you can have. So if anybody wants a signed physical copy, I will give that for anyone that's on the launch team, because it's super helpful.
Yeah, man, that's super cool. And how long did the book end up being? Like, is pages wise or chapters wise? Is it?
I think it's 270 something or something like that. 270 pages.
That's a good, I got it
right here. Yeah, it's actually, there's like, it turns out to be 303. So, but there's like by bibliography and stuff. Yeah. When it comes to actual content, it's probably about 280. 290.
Yeah. I think that's that sweet spot, right? Because like, for folks, it's if they're picking your a book up and it's like, my wife is one thing, she can read a book like this in like a day, you know what I mean?
Stephen King, and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. How did you know? She's a big Stephen King fan. Yeah. Yeah. Too funny, man. I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been really good to get to know you. I love your ideas. A fresh take on everything, and that's just from your own experience and sharing your own experience and helping people, getting the word out and everything. I love the book concept, and you got a fan in me. I'll be signing up for that team that you're talking about for sure. So
thanks, man. I appreciate that,
dude. And you're always welcome. We get closer to the day if you want to come back on for a part 2, and when it comes closer to getting that physical book going, by all means, the door's always open for your turn. I appreciate your time today, Ken.
Love it, dude. I will take you up on that, Matt. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Any final words? I always like to put my guests on the spot, final words, parting wisdom, whatever it may be.
I would just tell people, listen, I tell people all the time, I'm not saying that you can't live a good life drinking. I will not say that, because my life drinking was pretty good. It was awesome. But my life is so much better not drinking. And I tell people, have the courage to give the best version of yourself the chance to come out, because as good as you are now, there's an even more amazing version inside of you if you give drinking a break. And you only know that if you give it a break. So why not give it a shot? What do you have to lose?
Ooh, that's a good way to end it. Thanks so much, Ken.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you.